Is there a potential down the road for somebody to come up with recyclable carpet in its entirety? The backing, everything, or is that just a pipe dream?
You know, if you would have asked me that 10 years ago, I would have said it's a pipe dream. I have learned, now, is it easy? No, but can it be done? I believe it can be. And what I'm seeing, one of the most important thing I'm seeing change out there is people's mindset. We're actually thinking about end of life before we even make it. That's a huge step. Are we perfect there? No, but the innovation and R&D has reached the point where we're at least beginning to think about it. And J+J makes that a very important part of our initial design.
You know, we were talking before we turned the camera on about how, at least on some of these HGTV type programs that people see, oh, carpet, we'll have to tear that up. Carpet having a story like that would, and of course looking good as well.
Yes.
Very likely could change everything.
I think it's certainly going to play a role in it. You know, a consumer needs to know that you know, carpet can be recycled. I can't tell you the number of people who I've run across in planes or out in the communities, and I tell them that I recycle carpet, and their first thought is, "You mean you just clean it up and steam clean it and reuse it?" And I have to spend the next 5 minutes telling them, no. There's other ways we do that. We shear it, or we melt it, or we otherwise process it. And of course, they're encouraged. They said, "I didn't even know you could recycle carpet." So do I agree we could better educate a consumer? Yeah. I absolutely do believe that.
That's interesting. Now, several years ago, I lose track of what, 3, 4, 5 years ago, you initiated a water project here.
Yes, yes.
Unlike any other project that's ever has happened before or since.
That's right.
In this business. That was a major part of your recycling, or of your program. Talk about that.
Well, thanks for asking that question. And you're right, it was 3 years ago, and we call it Aquafinity, and it's aqua, water, and infinity, recycled all the time. And so in our process, we are the first carpet manufacturer to be able to recycle our own water, and to do that at a significant level. And we're very proud of it, because think about what I mentioned earlier, how J+J conservation is the core of our sustainability. So if we've conserved the landfill and we've reduced our waste, that shows our conservation. And then if we've learned to recycle the water, again, that shows our conservation. And so we're very proud of it. I don't think we'd have to spend any time convincing a single resident of California these days of the sheer water issues they're having. Water is vital, and some people might say it's the next oil. It very well could be. Here at J+J, we have done that several years ago. We continually get better each year. Several of our competitor mills we've allowed on site, and we're happy to have any competitor come take a look. Our founder, well, not our founder, but our president and CEO, David Jolly, has said he believes it's much better to have a sustainable industry than any one sustainable company. So he has openly and happily shared that technology with others.
The company has also achieved ISO 14001. Major. Talk about that and what that means for the company.
Well, it's called an environmental management system. It's an ISO standard. And the simplest way to say it, Dave, is this, is that from an environmental standpoint, we say what we do, and we do what we say. And if you will, once a year, we have an external third party come in and verify that what I just told you was true. So it's a very transparent way of working environmentally. It has improved our collective operational discipline. Some people call that operating discipline. And it's just made us a better company. And it's quite frankly, we're very proud of that. And we are actually working on our next ISO certification as well, not an environmental one, but another tool here at J+J. So, we're not done with an operating discipline improvements around here.
You had mentioned working with the CRI and of course with CARE. You're involved with the CARE situation, which is basically recycling carpet, reusing carpet. What needs to be done in that area? And this could be outside as well as in, building awareness, developing more sources of recyclable carpet. What needs to be done there to move this thing into another gear?
That's a great question. I would say this, Dave. There's no limitation on supply. It's not an issue of whether or not we have enough material to recycle. It's an element of whether or not can we be used. So we need ideas, innovations with regard to new products. CARE has funded a study at the University of Connecticut. That's going to be one element that we're doing. I would say, I hope that's just the first of many things like that we do. But we need to, clearly look long term. We need to be creative. We need to be willing to try, new opportunities. And in addition to that, the one thing that myself, as Director of Sustainability here at J+J, is this, and I recognize that this is a bit, sustainability only focused. But in the carpet industry, we are very good at competing on price, style, service, and quality, and we should be. Quite frankly, we all make ourselves better. The consumer benefits as we compete that way. But when it comes to things of sustainability, can we not cooperate where it makes sense? That's why, again, it gets back to the Aquafinity. We're happy to cooperate with that. If anybody wants to come talk to me on how we achieved zero landfill, I'm happy to talk to them about that. It gets back to a sustainable industry is better than one sustainable company.
Yeah. You answered a major question for me. It's always, companies are very shy about sharing anything with a competitor, but sustainability, at least in some instances, is the exception to that.
I think it is in some elements. I think as an industry, if we continue to move and challenge ourselves that way and see it more holistically, that'll be a good thing. And I don't have rose-colored glasses on. I recognize we're still competitors, and that's fine. But where we can, we should. That's all I'm saying.
Well, the industry,
absolutely,
sustainable industry, that's
right.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah, well, water is important to every one of us. The landfill is important to every one of us.
Sustainability is an interesting thing.
Mm-hmm.
One guy can't be sustainable. Everybody in the company needs to be pulling on the same end of that rope. And I think you've almost answered this question by virtue of 50, however many years ago it was, when Jolly and Jones, I believe it was, sat down and formed this company. That must have been an important part, and that seems to be in the DNA here. You
have hit the nail on the head. That's exactly right. We are fortunate to have that DNA in us, and now it's the responsibility of each generation then to pass those traits on, and that's why we've continued to move the bar, whether it be Aquafinity or whether it be the landfill, and we'll continue to do other things like that. But you're exactly right. It's in the DNA. We're very fortunate. Of course, we live in a beautiful part of the country where conservation should be important to anybody as you look around and see the beauty of nature. But yeah, you've hit the nail on the head.
Now, where that has to be seen, I guess, you get R&D people sitting down, okay, we're going to come up with a new product, we're going to roll out here at NeoCon next year. That has to be something on front of mind, I suspect, in developing that product, and I'm sure there's thousands of decisions on each product that one has to make.
It is. Here at J+J, I'm sitting right in the midst of our R&D operations. We call them innovation. And with that, I'm able to work with those people. Joe Reese leads our innovation efforts, and he and I talk not daily, but we talk hourly. And we're constantly, and sometimes, he's got an idea, and I'll mention something, a counterpoint, sometimes he does, but collectively we're working together. And what we find is that communication, and that has really helped. It's changed the way I've looked at things. It's changed, I think, the way he and his team have looked at things, but we've got to look at it differently going forward. 20 years ago, I don't think we had those conversations. 10 years ago, we might have thought about it, but today we're having them all the time.
So I guess the important question is, to wind up this conversation, the future. Obviously, you're thinking about today what you're going to be putting into use next year, next 5 years down the road, and so on. What are some of the things that are on your to-do list and on the company's to-do list as it relates to sustainability in the future?
Well, that's a great question. One of the things that will steer what we'll do is our 2020 vision. So an example would be, we are looking at on-site renewable energy. That would be one example. Another example is we're constantly moving the bar up on the recycled content. So another activity that I'm actively involved in is constantly increasing the amount of recycled content we have in our products. Not only because our customers are asking for it, but it's the right thing to do. If we can figure out a way to formulate it with a material that we can recycle, that's the right thing to do. So those would be a couple examples. We will continue to move forward in our water. We're not, just because we put the unit out there, that doesn't mean we're done. We're looking at every other opportunity. And energy is the next one. There's no doubt that energy drives greenhouse gases, so we're looking at energy and energy reductions, and those have been improvements. And then, in addition to all of those, let's call them sustainable or environmental initiatives, we are constantly looking at new products, and that's part of why Joe Reese and myself and his team and others, we're just looking at ways to make our products more efficient, more effective. That's a great question.
Interesting, interesting. Russ, it's great. What an education.
Well,
it's a great topic, and what you're doing is really eye-opening. I'm glad you could share it with us.
Well, it's been my privilege. Thank you for looking at it and the report that is, and we're excited. We're already looking forward to next year's report.
Very good. Russ, thank you so much. We've been talking with Russ DeLozier. He is Director of Sustainability at J+J Industries, and this is Talk Floor TV.